Hey guys, what do you say we finish up these Cruzer doors? If we're going to work on the Cruzer, it is mandatory that you wear the Blue Angels apparel. Look how clean the glass is on the door. It's like you can't even see it. All right, so a few of you are going to be a little bit disappointed in this video because I did not really film anything with building the actual door frame. And the reason I didn't is because the instruction manual from Zenith to build these doors is actually very, very nice. And there was really nothing I could add that I think would benefit you. Follow the instructions step by step and you'll build a nice set of doors. Let me show you. In here, we have the instructions for the doors. Okay, in the first one here, in these pages, it just tells you a little bit how to modify the skin, fit the top piece, put in the door seal. There's nothing complicated. They've got a lot of nice pictures in here, and it really is step-by-step instructions. Just follow exactly what they're doing, and you will be fine. Over here, this one here is cutting the hinge. I think this is kind of just assembling the door, cutting the square tubes to the right length and putting it all together. Again, just follow the instructions, super easy. Then they have this set here, which is for the door latches. Nothing difficult there. Zenith really did a nice job, I think, on these instructions. And then this is the instructions for fitting the glass to the frame. The first thing I want to point out on my doors, I did something just a little bit differently. You can see this is the hinge riveted to the frame, which I'm going to show you how I did in just a minute. Then the top part of the hinge is actually supposed to be riveted to the side of this aluminum piece. I thought it would look better to rivet it to the bottom. And you can see here under the door how I have that hinge riveted to the bottom of this U-channel instead of to the side. I'm going to show you how I cut my hinges. You have to cut a few of these loops off to be able to get the pins in. The instruction manual has you kind of clip them off with a pair of side cutters. I think it's much better to use a saw or reciprocating, or not a reciprocating, what is that, a bandsaw, and then file it smooth and sand it, and you get a real nice finish. It looks like it was almost made that way. In order to install the hinges on the doors, the holes have to be countersunk. Now, I started out doing this with a deburring tool, and it was taking a little bit of a long time, so I tried to do it with a drill with the same bit. The problem is when I did it with a drill, you can see the hole here doesn't come out to be a nice smooth hole. So even though it took longer, I went back to doing it by hand with the deburring tool. You can check your progress just by inserting a rivet and seeing if the top is flush with the hinge. If it's not, just keep going. And you can see when I do it by hand, I get a much cleaner, rounder, nicer looking hole. Here it is with the rivet sitting flush. So after that, it's almost time to rivet. But first, I wanted to prime the mating surfaces. So I'm using some sandpaper here to scuff up the aluminum. After I scuffed it up, I'm just going to clean it with some alcohol. Get all the grease and fingerprints and dust off of it. And then I will spray it with just a self-etching primer right out of a spray can. Quick and easy. I also want to prime the mating surface of the hinge. So again, I'm just going to sand it to scuff it up. Then I'll clean it with alcohol, and I want to spray the hinge again. Now the reason I'm taping off the actual hinge part is because that will get primed and painted with the door. All I want to do right now is just have a little light coat of primer on the two surfaces that actually touch. And with the hinge taped off,
using just the same green self-etching aluminum primer to prime it. A hairdryer cures this paint, or makes it dry to the touch anyway, almost instantly. And here you can see the hinge is primed, just the part that touches the frame. The loops are not yet primed. With that done and dry, it's time to rivet. Now with the hinge installed and riveted, it's time to fit the glass. I started with getting the top fit. And when you put this on the frame, you'll notice there's some molded in lines here all around the window, but they don't exactly match up with the frame. So just get it lined up, I think, the best you can. That's all I did. Once you get it lined up, I just drilled a few holes, enough just to put, I think, like one cleco in each corner. That'll hold the glass on there right where you want it. Now the first side you have to trim and cut is going to be the top, because the other sides and the bottom, you'll need the door on the airplane for that. So here I am working on the top. I'm just peeling off some of the plastic. Now I'm putting this masking tape down, looking through the window and putting it down right on the edge of the loops of the hinge, which you'll see in just a second. See how it marks off where I want to cut the glass? That way the glass will fit just under the loops on the hinge. And the way I did that is once the tape was on there, I just used this bandsaw and cut along that tape line to get a straight edge. You can cut a pretty straight line with the bandsaw, but obviously you want that line to be perfect. So after I cut it, I just put some sandpaper on a sanding block, and you can use a pretty aggressive grit. I think I used about 80 grit to start with. You'll get a nice perfectly straight edge on the glass. Then you can cleco it back on the frame, and you can see how nicely it fits and does not interfere with the loops of the hinge. After that, I just went around and finished drilling out all the rest of the holes. And again, I'm just the holes are already drilled in the frame, so all I'm doing is looking down through the glass and drilling the holes through the glass. I'm installing all the corner pieces first. After all the corner pieces are attached, you can actually install the door on the fuselage. Well, that is all I filmed on actually building the frames of the door. What I did was, on the last clip you saw, I just put the door on. I put the hinge pins in on the top. And when you do that, the clear glass, you haven't trimmed the front and bottom and back yet. So it'll be hanging over the fuselage. All you need to do is draw a line or use masking tape or whatever you want. But you can see exactly where, you can go around the whole door and you can see exactly where you need to trim the glass. Once I made that line on there, I just unclecoed the glass from the frame and then took it over to the bandsaw again and cut out all the sides, sanded them nice and straight, sanded them smooth, and then installed it back on. And I think I had to trim it a couple times. You might not get it perfect the first time. That gets you to the point where if you wanted, I guess you could start drilling the holes and rivet it on. But what I did after that, and I really don't have any pictures, I wish I did, but this glass, whatever company makes this Lexan or plexiglass or whatever it is, when they put it in the mold and they blow out this bubble, there's obviously, I think, a clamp that goes around the outside. And they do a terrible job, because the part that's flat here along the bottom, outside of the bubble, is all wrinkled and nasty. It just looks absolutely terrible. So in the next clip, I'm going to show you how I sanded that down and then buffed it out to straighten it out and actually make it nice and flat and clear instead of having all these waves and wrinkles in it. Now prepare to do something scary. Get an orbital sander
with a 320 grit pad and just go over the outside and the inside. And it takes quite a bit sometimes to get rid of the deep grooves that are molded into this clear glass. But it's okay. You can scratch it up and make it milky so you can't even see through it. But by the time you're done buffing it, it'll be crystal clear. So I just went around the whole perimeter on the inside and outside. And since the orbital sander was 320 grit, I used 400 grit sandpaper, then I went to 600, and then all the way up basically to 5,000. And then after 5,000, I'm going to show you in a minute here, I used the 3M buffing and polishing compounds to make it clear.
So I'm now on the 1500. I started with the 320 on the orbital sander. Then I did 400. Then I did 600. This is 1500. Then I'm going to do 2000. Then I have 3000 and 5000. Then after I sand it all to 5000, I will use the 3M buffing and polishing compounds to finish it off. Down on me here, but what I'm doing is I'm done sanding, and I'm going to use the same 3M three-step buffing and polishing process that I used on some other videos where I sanded and buffed my paint. The difference this time is I'm using these smaller, I know the video is kind of dark because I'm facing the light, but I'm using these smaller pads here. So we'll see how this works.
These pads actually work amazingly well. I like them better than the big pads, even for buffing the paint on the airplane. They're the exact same kind of pads, the same foam, they're just smaller. Much easier to control. And I'll see if I can put a link to these on Amazon in the description box if you guys want to buy them. This first one I just did is step 1 of the 3-part buffing process. I just do kind of one side at a time, and then I wipe it all off with a rag. And again, just like buffing paint, don't mix up the rags because you don't want to get any of this cutting fluid onto the finer steps you'll do next. Just flip the door around here. Now I'm going to do the top. Same thing using the number 1 or the first step of the process.
So I've already used step 1. This is step 2. Just put a little bit on there. Kind of rub it on just so it doesn't sling everywhere. What I do is I do one side at a time and then I wipe it clean. So I did the top, the back, and now this is the bottom. And this is only step 2 of 3. And this glass right now is almost perfectly clear. So this is really working nicely. So now I'll do the front edge with this number 2, and then I gotta flip it over into the other side with 2, then 3, and it's done. Well guys, sorry to make you wait, but that is all I have time to do. I'm off to work tomorrow. When I get back from that trip, I'm taking the jet skis out to the lake for the first time this summer, and then it's time to fly this beautiful Mooney to Oshkosh. I'll see you guys when I get back. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want. Give the video a thumbs up, and we'll see you on part 4.